Today, I thought we would talk a little bit about flood insurance. There have been all of these disasters as we're speaking. The wildfires in LA they are still going on, but it has really abated quite a bit, although that could come back. And so fire has really been on the mind, but it hadn't been that long ago, just a couple of months ago, when we had a hurricane go through Florida and up into North Carolina. And especially in North Carolina, it hit them really hard. And so there was a lot of damage. I think a lot of that will be considered flood damage. And so, we have these things happen to our property, and we need to understand how this works. Now, a few days ago, I did a video on insurance, just sort of in general, on homeowners insurance. And that was really important, but flood insurance is often not included in homeowners insurance. You often have to get that separately. You may live somewhere where that's just not much of a risk, and you may decide that you're not too concerned about that risk. Totally get that. But what I do want to have happen is I'd like you to know about it so that if you have something come up, you understand what you can expect. So if you do have that, you don't want to be caught where you assume that you are covered and then you get into a situation and find out it is not. So what we're doing today, this is a brand new consumer guide from National Association of Realtors, and it is on flood insurance. So I'm going to be reading most of this. I'll probably make a comment or two, but I do want to read it to make sure that I cover all of the important points. So let's get in. So flooding is the most common and costly natural disaster in the U.S. Even a few inches of water can cause devastating damage. A licensed insurance agent can advise you on purchasing the right flood insurance to protect your assets. Here's what you need to know. So first, pause. I am a real estate broker. I'm licensed here in Kentucky and Indiana. I am not an insurance broker, and I am not an insurance expert. So I am not trying to provide advice on that. What we are trying to do is cover the most important points and then direct you to talk to an insurance agent or expert, and you can discuss the risk and decide what is best for you. All right, let's get back to it. Does my homeowner's insurance cover flood damage? Most homeowners insurance policies do not cover flood damage. While federal disaster assistance may be available to you when a flood occurs, it may be limited and is not guaranteed. The best way to ensure your assets are protected is to purchase flood insurance. What is flood insurance? Flood insurance covers a property for damage caused by flooding, including from incidents such as heavy or prolonged rains, melting snow, coastal storm surges, blocked storm drainage systems, or levee dam failure. Is flood insurance required? If you own a home or business in a high-risk flood area, any area with a 1% or higher chance of experiencing a flood each year as defined by the Federal Emergency Management Agency, or FEMA, and have a federally backed mortgage, your lender will require you to have flood insurance. However, even where your lender does not require flood insurance, it does not mean your home is not at risk. According to FEMA, whenever it rains, it can flood. Consult an insurance agent for guidance on your specific circumstances. How much does flood insurance cost? The average cost of flood insurance is about $1,000 per year, according to FEMA. However, the cost can vary widely depending on many property-specific factors and the flood risk for each individual property. Your premium is also influenced by your deductible or the portion of the claim that you must pay out of pocket. And so one of the things that they didn't specifically mention in this particular section is that it probably also will depend upon where you are. If you are in an area with a higher than average flood risk, you more than likely will have a higher than average cost for your flood insurance. So places, where there's, I would say, especially, Florida and coastal regions are probably very high. I know that in Florida and in California in particular, and I'm sure there's some other areas, but those two things, some of the homeowners there are finding that it is very difficult to get flood insurance because it's either so expensive or because of the losses, many insurers do not want to offer that. So just a quick side note. All right, what are my options for purchasing flood insurance? Depending upon where you live, you have two options. Number one, the National Flood Insurance Program, NFIP. The NFIP is managed by FEMA. It offers flood insurance to property owners, renters, and businesses in participating communities. In return for access to flood insurance, participating communities agree to adopt and implement local floodplain management regulations that help protect lives and properties from flooding. For residential dwellings, NFIP policies offer coverage up to $250,000 for building repairs and up to $100,000 for personal property. Non-residential properties are covered up to $500,000 for building repairs and $500,000 for damaged contents. Check your community status on FEMA's website to determine if you are eligible. You can also get an NFIP rate quote online. All right. The second option is private insurance. Private flood insurance is provided by private companies rather than the federal government. Private insurers may charge comparable rates but offer more coverage than the NFIP, such as higher protection limits, policy enhancements, and payments for temporary living expenses if you are displaced. You can also supplement an NFIP policy with private insurance to extend your coverage further. And the last thing is, how long does it take for the policy to take effect? Typically, there is a 30-day waiting period from the date of purchase until an NFIP policy goes into effect. There are exceptions if you purchase flood insurance in connection with a mortgage loan. Private flood insurance can vary. So those are the main things, and I think that the highlights I want you to take away from this are, don't assume that your homeowner's insurance will cover flood insurance. It may, but I think in most cases it will not. Normally you're going to have to get additional insurance for flood damage. The second thing is flood damage is generally far more common than fire damage. I think we often think about fires, but in general, floods and water damage from floods tends to be a much bigger risk factor than fire. So the biggest thing here is I don't want you guys to believe that you are covered when you're not. And again, you can decide the risk that you think are appropriate for you. If you get more coverage, you're going to have to pay more premiums. I mean, it obviously will increase your cost if you do that. And so part of that is, what's the risk you're willing to assume? But what I don't want to have happen is you to be paying and paying and paying and assuming that everything is okay, and then you have a catastrophe, and that is the absolute worst time. And you don't need things to be any worse than they already are to find out that you thought that everything was covered and it's not. So very important. Make sure you understand the policies. Be sure you understand your homeowner's policy, and make sure that you talk this over with your insurance agents, and have the policy that you want at the risk that you're willing to take. So that's it. We will wrap it up on this. We want to continue this series. If you found this helpful, please share it with somebody else who you think might be helpful. And if you want to follow along on real estate topics, you might subscribe to our channel. I have been doing NAR's consumer guides here. I don't know that I'm going to do all of them, but if you want to look at other consumer guides, I started a playlist for those guides, and you can check those out. Also, if you have other real estate questions, you can put it in the comments. I try to respond to all comments, or I'll also put a link to my website. You can reach out to me there, and I can try to answer questions there. You might also check through my other videos that I have on my channel. Otimo Properties, Real Estate Matters. I've done a lot of different videos on different things in real estate, particularly commercial real estate. I'm primarily a commercial broker. And you might find some things that are helpful to you there. Anyway, I think that about wraps it up. I'm David McCoy. I'm based here in Louisville, Kentucky. I am licensed in Kentucky and Indiana. And I primarily do commercial, I do a little bit of residential, and I do global. So if I can answer any questions with that, or if I can be of help to you, reach out to me and let me know. And that's it for now, and I'll be, hopefully seeing you in a future video. Take care and have a good evening. Bye.